have Senator Mazie Hirono joining us now.
Yeah, she's announcing her re-election bid today, and we're going to get to that in a second.
Okay.
But there are a lot of major topics that we need to talk about. Vladimir Putin, that decision was just made that he's going to delay participation in this nuclear agreement. How concerned are you?
Very concerned because it just goes to show how dangerous he is and how isolated he continues to become. And yet we can never take anything that he says as something that we shouldn't be paying attention to. I am really glad that President Biden made it very clear that we're going to continue to support Ukraine in their fight for democracy and for their own country. So you know, these things are developing on a daily basis, and we need to be very steadfast.
Do you think the president's trip to Kyiv provoked this reaction from President Putin, or do you think they kind of saw that coming in some ways?
Whatever the case, we all know that Vladimir Putin is a war criminal, and I'm very glad that Vice President Harris said that. He is going to continue to be isolated. I think the most important thing was that we are going to stay the course, and our allies are going to stay the course in the ways that we are dealing with Putin.
Last more call for gun control and enforcement after Michigan State. Where do you stand on that? And what are you pushing for?
Michigan State, there were others. So we're up to, I don't know how many, more than one mass shooting a day. This is, in my view, the sort of the normalization of gun violence, which should never happen. And I'd like to see us finally, but it's basically the Republicans who, the way I put it is, they love guns more than they love our children. They can deny it all they want, so I would like to see a national gun safety legislation so that we can abolish assault weapons, for example, another thing that the president put out there in his State of the Union speech. So there are a lot of things we can do to make our community safer, and that's certainly one of them.
But how do we do that? Because it looks like the way the Supreme Court is stacked right now, it's not going to happen there. So it has to come from Congress.
And there we are. Here we are in Congress. So frankly, what we need to do is take back the House and add more senators, and I would like to see Supreme Court reform, starting with they should have a code of ethics. They have no code of ethics, so you can have somebody like Clarence Thomas, believe me, talking to his wife about the election, and that's not disclosed. He doesn't recuse himself. All of the trips that they are provided, Scalia had some over 80 of these trips that you know, to these resorts and all that, none of which is disclosed. So starting with this, they should have a code of ethics, but I am open to other Supreme Court reforms, including term limits for Supreme Court.
The Chinese spy balloon, is that blown out of proportion?
I don't think so. It's very clear that China was in our airspace, and I think the military and DOD and the president were really smart in how they decided to deal with it. So there's a lot more attention paid to what is going on. Suffice to say that there is a lot going on in space. Both Russia and China, as well as we, have a lot of satellites in space. So I think it called attention to the need to protect our airspace, among other things.
All right, I want to turn to Red Hill and ask you about, do you think that enough is being done in this cleanup process? Do you think that the military is being transparent enough? Because I feel like we're always fighting for information there.
I think that with the task force that was created, that they are being a lot more transparent than before. And they know that our entire delegation, and I sit on the Armed Services Committee where I have a very senior position, and I just talked with the Deputy Director of DOD 2 days ago in Washington, was it 2 days? In Washington, D.C., and I said, I look to you and the Secretary Austin to continue to pay attention to what we need to do with Red Hill, including the safe defueling, the safe closure, the continuous monitoring after the closure. So they know that I am very much on it, and every time I come home, we do it, even when I'm not home.
Yeah, I'm sure they've reached out to you very much. We're still waiting on the debt ceiling, too. Where are we as far as that agreement is, and the inevitable decision that needs to come?
You have the House that you have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and others who want to use the debt ceiling, which is paying our bills for things that we've already used or bought. and they're fooling around with it and risking the state of our economy. They don't care. Let's hope that Mitch McConnell, he has said that he doesn't want to use the debt ceiling as hostage, but he'll have to convince his House counterparts what to do.
Well, Senator, we have you on today because we wanted to talk about your reelection bid that you're announcing. And you were elected in 2012, went into office in 2013, so it's been about 10 years now.
Time flies.
I know, no kidding. Right? We think the same thing too. But I wanted to ask you what you're hoping to accomplish that you haven't accomplished so far.
There are always things that we need to do because the battles we thought we had won don't stay won. So whether it's a woman's right to choose, believe me, I would be fighting against any efforts to have a national abortion ban. And I'm going to be fighting to make sure that Social Security and Medicare will be protected from anything that the Republicans come up with, even if they try to run away from it. But they've talked about privatizing Social Security. They want to cut government services, and the two biggest government programs, Medicare and Social Security. So I will fight those kinds of efforts. And we need to have the richest people and companies pay their fair share of taxes. So there's a lot to do, and I'm going to keep on doing it. I'm grateful that the people of Hawaii know that I'm on their side. I'm fighting for them.
Yeah, and we got a lot to talk to going into next year. So thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you, Senator.
All right.
Good morning, everybody. Stay safe, everybody.
We'll be right back.